Hey, it's Natalie here, and today it's just you and me because after 30 incredible episodes, I wanted to pause and speak directly to the reason this podcast exists. Simply put, you. Whether you've been here quietly, tuning in as a curious observer, taking bold notes in the margins of your busy, sparked life, or showing up fully unsealed and ready to rise, this podcast is your journey, your mirror, your launchpad. And today, as we step into episode 31, I want to do 3 things. First, thank you for being here, showing up, and choosing growth. Second, celebrate the standout moments that have sparked insight and fire. And finally, invite you to the next chapter, the UnCeiling Zone, launching August the 25th. One of our listeners recently wrote, "Thank you for the fuel I needed to start my day." That moment fueled me right back because creating this podcast isn't always easy. Guests reschedule, tech breaks down, but this work, this mission, it's worth every ounce of energy, and because you're worth it. So before we jump into the highlights, the fiery shorts, the guest wisdom, and a few of my personal favorite behind the scenes moments, I wanted to say this clearly. You're just not listening to a podcast. You're part of a movement, one that helps women reclaim their ambition, unseal their voice, and rise with purpose and power. So, are you ready to look back, get inspired, and take the next bold step forward? Let's dive in. Hi guys, this is Natalie Luke, the host of the Unsealing You podcast. And today, it's just me, my first solo episode. It's a little unusual, and it's the first time I'm doing it. So I have to ask you, what does it feel like to take a quantum leap? And I'm wondering, am I in one now? So here's the thing. I've been thinking about quantum leaps. And quantum leaps are a little bit different than the types of leaps that we're used to thinking. It's kind of like the laws of normal physics are gone. If you think about how a ball rolls uphill, you have to push it. It rolls up the hill, and eventually the gravity will force the ball to go slower and slower and slower. And finally it stops, and then it turns directions and it comes back down the hill. And at first it rolls down slower, but then as gravity starts to pick up its force, the ball rolls faster and faster and faster. But quantum leaps are not that way. Quantum leaps, the laws of quantum physics are electrons can move in one direction and in a second move in the other direction. There is no slowing down. There is no picking up. It's just a change in direction. Now, I wish I was the one that came up with that particular idea or that analogy, but I'm not. I'm listening to a book called The Energy Codes from Sue Morter, and she describes a quantum leap like that. And why am I bringing this up? It seems like it's such a weird idea. The reason I'm thinking about it is because in the first season, I talked a lot about Natasha, and that's my inner critic that kind of holds me back and stops me from really becoming my best self on the tennis court. She's constantly in my ear to say, that shot sucked. Oh, what are people going to think about you as a tennis player? Puts me in a position where I'm constantly having to prove myself, prove that I belong on that court. One of my favorite partners is Diane. And when Natasha shows up, she'll look at me like, oh my God, you seem like you're being haunted by some strange spirit. And it's true, I was. Natasha got a hold of me, and sometimes she gets a hold of me in business meetings and meetings with my team, where I start to critique everything that I'm thinking, everything that I'm saying, and I don't come off as freeing like myself. And I thought to myself, what if I can be haunted by a tennis goddess, my best self? What would that look like? I develop an archetype or a persona. Her name is Leora. You're probably wondering, Leora, Natasha, all beautiful names. Where in the world do you come up with that? Well, it ends up that Leora does mean transmutation and sovereign expansion. And basically what Leora does is takes pressure, shame, and challenge and turns it into power, clarity, and purpose. And it means that I have sovereign authority over my choices. And I can be a version of me that no longer negotiates my voice, my worth, or my purpose. In other words, I do not have to be there to prove. I'm there just to be myself, to be my best self. Okay. So how do we translate this into action? Like, what are you talking about, Natalie? And I'll tell you what I'm talking about. I'm talking about walking into a room, walking onto the court like I belong. I walk on with my presence. So what I did to make this actually happen in tennis is I created these cards that I could put on the bench and read between games. And I'm telling you, it made the biggest difference. So let me share with you what I put on my cards. I wrote, 1 point is not the match. I release it, reset, and return with fire. And so it was funny because at first I would have to say it over and over to myself. I release it, I reset, I return with fire whenever I made a mistake. But pretty soon I began not making mistakes, but making these really bold shots, successful shots. Like, wow, I never hit the ball like that before in a match. And I found myself, ooh, I need to release it. Don't get all tight, reset, and return with fire, because 1 point is not the match, whether it was a successful one or one that wasn't. I don't spiral. I sharpen, and I'm here to rise. Oh my gosh. I have to tell you, I would breathe in. Leora is here to play. Through the nose, out the mouth goes the tension. I found my hands naturally loosening on the racket. I wasn't gripping it with a death grip. Other things I would say is I play free, I play bold, and most importantly, I don't shrink to fit. I rise to strike. This was important because sometimes I would look up my partner's record score, and if someone was at a better ranking than me, I would be like, ooh, should I be on the court with them? And that was me causing myself to shrink. And by looking at this, I don't shrink to fit. I realize I step up to that court. And last, my presence is my power. Oh my gosh, that did so much for me. I stood up taller. When I breathed in, I made sure that breath went all the way down my throat, down to the lower lungs. I would breathe through my stomach, make my stomach wider, not just my chest, and breathe out through the stomach all the way up. I relaxed. And I have to tell you, I'm a numbers girl. I look at the data, and my record number increased from like a very low. But the biggest difference was in how people responded to me. Here's the funny thing. I didn't change anything about how I acted on the court. I did change the way I walked on the court. I walked like I belonged, not like I had to prove. I still had my same sense of humor. I still laughed at the same jokes. I still smiled. I still frowned at my missed serves. Nothing changed. Other people's response to me changed. Some people got angry, told me I was mean, and then left the court angry because I was on the court with all that power. Other people got angry and decided to level up. And this was a moment for me. So what does this have to do with work? Well, it goes back to the episode number 26 from June 30th. This was with Cam, where she talks about rediscovering your power, transforming burnout to purpose leadership. And the thing is that Leora was with me all along. I just had to claim her. I just had to let her out, let that goddess out. And when I did, it was so interesting. It was so fun. And she was right. It's right there to actually grab a hold of. Some people will leave angry. Other people will step up their game. So there you go. What I want to do is talk about what we've done so far, and then share some moments from the first 2 seasons, and then also talk about where we're going in the future. So it's an exciting journey, and I'm so glad that we're sharing it together. So one of the quotes that came from one of the guests was, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. That's what Mozilla shared with us in our conversation on one of our podcasts. And today, as we cross the 30th episode, it's a milestone. I want to start by saying this again. Thank you. This community is more than just listening. It's about growing together. And I see that in the conversations, the comments that come across, and the stories that I've heard. I've also had a listener tell me, I appreciate the focus on reclaiming voice in the power and challenging environments. That tells me we're just not making content. What we're doing is making an impact. So thank you for that. So let's talk a little bit about some of the milestones that we've had. And they are in the form of shorts. And these are standout moments. The shorts that were most listened to, responded to, click through, all of those things. So let's talk about the highlights, because we've had some pretty fiery moments this season, especially as DEI was being bashed, and we were speaking all the way through it. So here's a few of those YouTube shorts that really resonated the most. The first was the double bind from Dr. Anna Kalschmidt. And she said, if a woman is nurturing, she's a good woman. But if she's direct, she's a good leader. But rarely is she both. And that's the double bind. Women are not to be direct. And this really hit home, and not just for me, but for other people that are managing, being promoted, and working alongside them. Let's hear that short right now.
So working class communities grow up more interdependent, and also communities of color tend to be more interdependent. And within race and classes, women are expected to be more interdependent, more communal than everyone else, because you're a bad woman if you only care about yourself, right? Well, if a man is very independent, well, he shows leadership potential, right? So they call that the double bind of, if you are communal and as in nurturing, other-centered, kind, etc., you're a good woman. However, if you're more agentic, showing decisiveness, being direct, etc., then you're a good leader. So the double bind is that women are either perceived as not ladylike, which is not likable, or not leadership material.
Right.
Well, that is not a bind that men have.
Another standout moment came from Ellen Likend, and she was talking about how to use poker as an analogy for getting ahead. In particular, she was talking about bluff without the lie. And bluffing at work isn't lying as long as you're prepared to make that move. And it's confidence with readiness. You do need to know your value, and you need to stand in it. This short got reposted again and again. And because many of you are negotiating and asking and stepping up, let's hear that particular short one more time.
Remember, in poker, when you bluff, you're totally lying. You're being deceitful. So we're not going to do that at work. Let's be very careful to make that distinction. When we're bluffing, we're not lying because our reputations are on the line. So that's, I'm not telling you to lie. However, I'll give you an example. You are applying for a job and you can do something at 70% capacity, and you know you can do what they're asking for. It's fine to say you can do it. You know, you don't have to be at 100%. You are looking for a raise or a promotion, and you've been talking to a lot of people that are interested in you. If it doesn't go your way, you know you have outs. It's okay to say, you know what, I have something else. Can you accommodate me, or I'm leaving?
Yeah.
As long as you're going to leave. And remember this, you have to bluff when you're in a position strength, so to speak. You have to have something as a backup.
Another standout moment came from my very good friend, Mariette, and she was talking about reframing fear. And many of us are afraid to move into that next step, and we need to work through that. And she asked the question, what if it isn't terrifying? Instead, what if it's awesome? Because the mindset isn't fluff, it's strategy. Let's hear that short once again.
This is going to be so hard. This is going to be the worst. And I want to reframe it for people, because what if it's not right? What if it's amazing? What if you go into it with this perspective of like, I can control what I can control and my attitude is going to be everything. And yes, there might be things that I can't control and I might not like, but what if it is awesome? What if I can find the beauty in every single moment rather than finding the terror?
And then there's my most favorite moment when I shared about my mom. My mother went from a housewife to a medical student at the age of 31 when only 5% of her class were women and none of them were as old as hers. I got to watch her rise, and she is the reason for the UnCeiling community. I wanted to make a place for people to see other women succeeding, hearing their stories and how they overcame both internal and external barriers to get ahead. So let's hear that. My mother became a physician at the age of 31. She started as a housewife. After she graduated from high school, she had 3 kids right away. Boom, boom, boom. And then my mom decided to go to nursing school. And then eventually she decided she was going to become a physician. So when I was a sophomore in high school, my mother was admitted into medical school. And this is at a time when only 5% of the class was made up of women, and they were definitely not 31 years old. They were young. So I watched my mom do this, and we had moved from Chicago to Kansas City for her to do this. I want to meet other amazing women like my mom, and I want to get their stories out so that other women can see it. Okay. Now that we've shared some of these standout moments, let's recap what all of the seasons have been all about, because guess what? This isn't random. The episodes are not showing up in a random order. There's actually some structure to it because it's a journey. And this is how we've designed it for your growth. Season 1 was all about breaking barriers. And here we're talking about overcoming perfectionism, doubt, burnout. And we got real, we got vulnerable, and we started healing from that voice inside that really cut us down. It was an exciting moment to have all of those guests join me in season 1. Season 2 came just at the right time. And here we talk about facing external barriers, bias, glass ceilings, and hidden politics. And it couldn't have come at a better time because it came just when people were saying DEI was illegal or a bad name, and they were still saying it. And so we really examined that. And we did it in 3 different parts. We first looked at the hidden barriers, the hidden roadblocks that we see that hold us back. And then what we did is we challenged external barriers or societal expectations. And then from there, we looked at how to replace or challenge those expectations with a radical mindset. So we decoded the systems that weren't built for us, and we gave you tools to shift them. I capped it off with 2 really great women who overcame tremendous barriers. One moved to a small town in which there was one other realtor in town, and that realtor told her that he hated her and he did not want to work with her. But yet she found a way to not only help herself succeed, but she also opened up a market and opportunities for other people that were in that small town. Huge, wonderful story. If you haven't heard that episode 29, I encourage you to listen to it. I also capped it off with a story from a woman who had a meltdown in the toy aisle. I've had plenty of meltdowns, but her meltdown led her to the White House and making a huge change for all women and girls across America. So if you haven't listened to episode 30, then I encourage you to do so. And now we're moving to season number 3. And what we've decided to do is to start talking about building a community of people around you, getting mentored, mentoring others. Why? It's because all of the people that succeeded, all of the women that have done well, they don't do it by themselves. They do it with others. So I want for you through season 3 to take a look at how you can rise, build a community of people around you that uplift you and take you to that next level. This is how we build our power and our future. This is about finding your allies, your mentors, and your networks and rising together. Because this podcast isn't meant to just inspire you, it's meant to equip you. So season 3 has 3 parts. The first is to build your foundation. This is for you to really know your strengths, know what you're good at, and be able to say it out loud, yes, to your horn, so that at the end of part 1, you can say, I'm ready to believe in myself and talk positively about myself. Part 2 is about building authentic relationships and letting those relationships that are going to hold you back go. And my hope for you is that by the end of part 2 of season 3, you will be easily able to ask for help and ask for help from a position of strength so that you can build meaningful connections that take you into part 3. And that is taking action, taking bold steps so that you can make creative change. That is what season 3 is all about. And we're going to go in double time. Last 2 seasons, we launched 1 episode a week. In season 3, hold on to your bootstraps because we're launching 2 episodes a week. And it's going to be a full schedule. But that's not all. I've been talking about the UnCeiling Zone for quite some time. And I've been asking people to take action and join the UnCeiling Zone. But now it's time. It's time for you to join. And we're going to talk about what the UnCeiling Zone does because it is in full swing on August the 25th, 2025. And I want you there because there's a tier for you wherever you are. So there are 3 different tiers for you to join the UnCeiling Zone. The first tier is a free tier. The second is a sparked tier. And the third is if you're unsealed. So let me tell you what's in this. All of the members get access to a community. And this community will be one where you can actually interact with other members who join. So you will be able to interact with these members. You will hear about announcements that are going on. And guess what? For the guests that want to participate, you can actually directly ask them questions. That to me is exciting. And if you want, you can actually also join our book club. Some of my guests have written books and they have audiobooks. So once a month, I'll have them on and we'll be able to ask these folks questions, the authors questions about their book. And I'll choose authors that have audiobooks. So you get a chance to listen to those books on the way to and from work ahead of the call. For those that are Sparked members, you'll also get pop-up group coaching events once a month where you can join me and we'll do special events that I'll tell you about throughout the season. You'll also get bonus content. One of the things that you'll notice is I ask extra questions just for the Sparked and Unsealed members. You get access to those. You also get access to worksheets and you get access to cool things like phone screens that give you motivating prompts to enjoy throughout the day so that you're acting with intention and as your highest self. And for the Unsealed members, we are going to cause transformation. I had one listener ask me, what is this accountability group and how come I'm not part of it? Well, guess what? We're creating accountability groups. And these are people that you can talk with once a week and let them know your goals. And you help them reach their goals and they help you reach yours. We'll also have 5-day challenge series. You'll also have access to a launchpad series workshop and also access to signature channels to talk with other members from other accountability groups. That's a lot. And so I want you there. I want you part of the UnCeiling Zone. So you'll need to check that out. The free option gives you connection. The sparked option gives you momentum. And the unsealed option gives you a full transformation, because that's what we're all about. Wherever you're starting from, this is your space. This is your season. And this is your step forward. And then make sure you head over to the UnCeiling Zone and join us as it starts on August the 25th. Thank you. This is Dr. Natalie Luke. Before we go, I want to leave you with this. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be in motion. If this episode stirred something in you, a question, a spark, or a sense that you're ready for more, then I want to personally invite you to the next phase of the journey. Head over to the UnceilingZone.com and choose a level that fits where you are right now. Free for connecting and community, sparked for momentum and tools that move you forward, or unsealed for full transformation with structure, support, and strategy. The UnCeiling Zone officially opens August the 25th, and I want you there because the next breakthrough isn't just about going further, it's about going together. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to the show, download this episode, and share it with one woman who needs a reminder that her voice, her growth, and her ambition matter. She matters, you matter. And this is Dr. Natalie Luke reminding you, you're just not here to grow, you're here to rise. And the ripples already started as you take flight.